Hey there, dog lovers. Welcome to the R Plus K9 podcast. My name is Anna, and I will be your host today. Before we get started, let's agree on something. You will make mistakes, and there will always be things you look back on and you wish you would have done it differently with your puppy. And you know what? That is absolutely all right. And that is also totally normal for both dog handlers and even professional trainers. We are all here to learn and grow. Today, we are diving into tips, tricks, and some advice for new puppy owners, and even those of you who've had dogs for decades but want to refresh or add to your knowledge. This podcast is for anyone who wants to raise a well-adjusted family member, a dog happy to hang out at home, go on hikes, and enjoy dog-friendly excursions around town. So I'm going to talk about a couple crucial developmental periods in all dogs' lives, no matter their breed or anything other than that. They all have to go through these things, so do we as their owners. So we might as well be as prepared as we can. So the first period that you're going to experience with your puppy in your home, if you get them at 8 or 10 weeks, is called a socialization period. This is a period that lasts from 8 to 12 weeks roughly, so about between 2 or 3 months of age. And this is a period that only happens once in every dog's lifetime. So it's very, very important that we take full advantage of it. But besides being prepared to take full advantage of it, we also want to have a toolkit so that we can best handle all of these developmental phases. So there is a common agreement amongst many scientists, including Daniel Shaw, who works a lot with dogs with separation anxiety, is that it is very beneficial to leave the puppy with their mom and litter mates for a couple extra weeks if you can. This can help decrease potentially things like developmental of separation anxiety, and it also allows them to get socialized with all of their puppy playmates and their mom, which can add an added layer of support. So another thing that I would just keep in mind if I would be you is this is only and only if beneficial if the breeder is knowledgeable about socializing the litter and they responsibly choose the dogs with temperaments that are suited for families to breed. Because if your breeder is just going to keep them in the dogs in their living room or maybe in their ranch and there is never new people or new noises coming and going, then unfortunately this will not benefit your puppy or it will not be an obvious win for their overall development. If you get a rescue, this might not be an option, but don't worry about this too much. Genetics also play quite a bit of role in this, and we will talk about all the things you can do to help your puppy grow into a confident and obedient dog, even if you did not get them necessarily from a breeder. So the very first and critical period, like we talked about, is this socialization period, again, from about between 2 to 3 months of age. So it is crucial to understand the difference between socialization and simply exposing your puppy to things. Socialization means exposing your dog to a variety of stimuli while ensuring that they're happy and comfortable throughout this process. Because if you just expose them without a regard for their reactions to the stimuli, you can actually cause more damage than good. We always want to caution you to head for quality exposure instead of quantity of exposure over time. So you want to make sure that their experiences are positive and consistently positive instead of just throwing a bunch of different exposures to them that some may be scary, others may be great. So I want you to pause here and take a few minutes to think about your lifestyle. If you live in the suburbs, what situation will your dog need to handle? Do you visit family far away, meaning they need to be comfortable with kennels or long car rides? Are you in the hustle and bustle of the city or a rural environment with wildlife and maybe gunshots in the background? Since there are endless things to expose puppies to, focus on what they will actually encounter and what's important to you. It is critical to continue these exposures beyond their socialization period, as otherwise your efforts may just be in vain. Beyond your specific lifestyle, there are some things that most dogs will encounter, and they should be socialized too, which include children of any age, people of any age or genders, other dogs, cars, fireworks, cats, a lot of times like running around them, so running kids, etc., and oftentimes things like lawn equipment, or depending on where you lived, it may also involve snow plowing and things like that. Lacking positive exposure to these often very common things in their life can lead to more serious concerns later on that you will have to work with somebody in the behavior modification department of things to fix. So how can you safely expose a puppy to things, especially before they have all of their shots? Well, you will need to be careful, of course. You can carry your puppy in a carrier, even a small wagon, or you can have them observed from a picnic blanket and they can just stay on that. This way, you're unlikely to compromise their safety while you're still creating positive experiences for the puppy with the outside world. I do highly recommend looking up a chart called Fear, Anxiety, and Stress, or FAS chart for short. As you expose your puppy to all of these new people, sounds, surfaces, creatures, so that you can watch and understand their body language. Once they enter the yellow zone on the chart, which shows an increase in stress, you should consider stopping the exposure or simply moving your setup about 10 feet back or farther away from the stimuli to see if that's enough to bring your puppy back into the stress-free or minimal stress green or greenish yellow zone on this chart. Remember that these outings don't have to be long. They are just babies. 10 to 15 minutes a day is more than plenty. As long as you can get a couple of chances throughout the week to take them out, that will be fine. Always have them eat treats, or you can play with them during these exposures to create a strong positive connection and association between the different stimuli, of course, them. A very important reminder is the difference between having your dog saying hi or engaging with every dog, human, or sound versus just exposing them, right? It is not needed for them to interact with the creatures and or objects and stimuli in order for it to be socialization. What we are looking for is a dog that is comfortable and neutral around a wide variety of stimuli, which doesn't necessarily mean that they have to interact with the stimuli. So during this critical socialization period, you don't want to focus on intensive obedience training. You can do that at any point in their life. The most important things are potty training and teaching your puppy to engage with you. For potty training, take them out on a leash and allow them to only circle in the area you are standing in until they go. This helps separate it from playtime and always reward them every time they go outside. If they have an accident inside and you see it happen, calmly take them outside to finish and reward them as soon as they went outside. If you find an accident and the culprit is gone, simply clean up with the enzymatic cleaner. You've missed your chance to intervene, so no need to make a big deal about it. And I do want to remind you that when you're potty training a puppy, it can sometimes be difficult to have a treat always on your person. So if you have multiple doors that lead to your backyard or just outside from your house, you may want to buy some shelf-stable treats and just put them simply in jars kind of high up outside of your dog's reach. So as you're running out to take the puppy outside, you can easily grab them and take the treat with you. Another very important thing that you should teach is engagement games. I really do recommend working with a trainer, or you can also look up a couple games like 2-ball, switch, and you can also do some fun recall games. Susan Garrett has many free videos on YouTube that you could check out, and of course we also occasionally share a couple, so feel free to look for those as well. Also, remember, puppies go through 2 fear periods. The first one overlaps with their socialization period. So it's around 8 to 12 weeks of age. So don't worry, it won't derail all of your efforts with socialization. During this time, your dog might be scared of things they were fine with previously, spook easier, or just seem less outgoing altogether. You will want to ease off exposure and make extra sure your puppy's barely, if at all, stressed when you do expose them to new stimuli. Do that, and you should be fine. Our next big developmental stage is called pre-adolescence. So this pre-adolescence stage normally lasts between 3 to 6 months of age. And this is when your puppy's primary socialization window has closed. From here on, we are mainly focused on maintaining those positive experiences. This period is oftentimes when most dogs end up in shelters simply because they start growing, gaining independence, and getting a bit more teenage-like. This phase is really about building a strong, secure relationship with your dog. I suggest teaching them impulse control through games, which we play a lot in our day training program, and establishing clear boundaries. You want to prevent behaviors like counter-surfing, running off and ignoring you, demand barking, or destructive behaviors. Each dog has slightly different needs depending on their breed and personality. Herding dogs will need lots of running to be satisfied compared to a bloodhound who might prefer scent games and just smelling around your yard. You can research appropriate enrichment online or take a few lessons to build a routine that fits your lifestyle and meets your dog's needs as well. Remember, we have to teach them boundaries. This is the age where they start testing what's acceptable and what's not. Dogs are much simpler than human teenagers. They do not do things to spite you. They simply do what works and what gets them what they want. Now we hit one of the hardest phases for most dogs and their owners, the adolescent period. Oh no! Your dog is, hopefully, interested in the world and you might feel like jumping ship. Don't worry, like everything, this phase will pass too. And unlike for us humans, it does not take years. However, hoping that it will pass without continuing to build skills, your relationship, their impulse control, and reinforcing boundaries means that this phase can become a lifestyle. Remember that this is the second most, or also the most common age for dogs to end up in shelters. This phase is normally when most people reach out to a trainer for help. And I wholeheartedly encourage you to do so. It can be overwhelming and frustrating, and some guidance can be incredibly helpful in building the best companion you and your dog can be for each other. An often overlooked but always expected skill from our dog is the art of doing nothing, which comes very, very handy, especially during this phase. I'm yet to meet someone who does not want their dog to know how to just turn off or be on standby in their daily life and just do nothing. While this is a very important skill to teach and a lot of people train it just in a crate, I really, really encourage you to teach your dog to do this outside of the crate and just to relax. Because this might be a really hard skill to teach for your dog depending on their temperament, energy level, and a couple other factors. I would really suggest that you reach out to a trainer and ask them to explain a couple ways to master this skill with your dog to get ahead of a couple other problems. And from a science perspective, remember your dog's brain is developing fast. And similar to humans, the impulse control center in the frontal lobe is one of the last to develop. They often look like a freight train without proper brakes, and this is normal. Normal or developmentally appropriate, however, does not mean pleasant. But for some of us, it can be helpful to understand that nobody chose this. It's a necessary challenge for dogs and humans to grow into healthy adults. And while this phase can be challenging, I think there can be found pleasure in every phase of a dog's development, including the teenage years. They are goofy, oftentimes they are uncoordinated, and they still require so much guidance. It really is kind of like a teenager, but also a toddler all at the same time. Another thing that you want to keep in mind during this developmental phase is that dogs go through a second fear period. The second fear period is going to happen somewhere around 6 months to a little bit over a year of age, depending on your dog breed and some other factors. Sometimes it really is dependent on their size, and or sometimes individual temperament, etc., especially with mixed breeds. So the second fear period, I would handle it exactly like we suggested for the first fear period. Don't panic, but you want to make sure that when you're exposing your dog to things and as you're doing your day-to-day life, you will have to pay extra attention to certain things to make sure that your dog is not overly stressed or not overly fearful to stimuli that might be new, or even if it's previously known stimuli that has suddenly become scary. So in the next 6 months, as your puppy gets closer to a year and a half, you will start to see their subtle temperament, their true personality. This is the light at the end of the teenager tunnel, and it's one of the best parts in my opinion. You've put in so much work you may have even questions at times, but here you are getting to meet the dog you've raised for the very first time. They won't be perfect, just like we are not, but they are a unique individual with their own quirks, strengths, weaknesses that are now predictable. Until now, you were probably working on all aspects of your dog evenly. While you should continue their training, now you will see who they are and where you may need to spend more or less time working with their training. The goal isn't a dog quietly trotting by you without ever sniffing or looking at anyone. By now, you should have a dog who is happy to work for you and with you, happy to trot by your side because you've met their needs and put in many hours teaching them what you expect. The dog you raised is a unique individual, and maybe they didn't turn out exactly the way you wanted them. But remember, your relationship is about both of you. Find things that both of you enjoy and both of you find fulfillment in, instead of doing things that only one or the other enjoys. You are partners for life, and that is one of the most wonderful things. Thank you for listening.